Welcome back to Dom's Day Off. First of all, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So basically, we're talking about how to write a love song, songwriting tips, breaking down my song, Green-Eyed, Blue-Eyed Boy. You can watch a version of it on YouTube. We're going to be doing some music stuff, so if you're not into music, get out, but non-aggressively get out. If you don't have a lover and you're like, why would I write a love song? Well, maybe you're fantasizing or maybe you're romanticizing this idea of it, and maybe you love life. Maybe you love blank, 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 whatever it is. Your morning coffee. I don't know. Romanticize it. Be dramatic. And now I have a love-hate relationship with love songs because it took me a really long time to want to write one. I think the reason for that was not only due to my musical capabilities at the time. I didn't want to write a love song and not be able to execute what I wanted to say or how I wanted it to feel until I was ready. And then also, I'm a little shy. I'm a little shy girl. It's okay. For a long time, writing songs in general was like pulling teeth. And so being that vulnerable with my sort of soft girl emotions, being like confident in those feelings and putting them to words and accurately like represent them through music was difficult for me. And as you could tell, I have one love song. It's a very cute, very simple, sweet love song. And I hope to write many more that are very different, that might be, a little bit less serious. Because a lot of the songs I write are very serious sounding, and sometimes a little lightheartedness goes a long way because I feel like my personality is like that. Like I take music seriously, but my personality is not serious at all. Taking things too seriously can be like detrimental to creativity, and I've started to realize that expression is the main thing. Today we're going to be using as like a tool my personal songwriting checklist. I am going to have a PDF. I know this sounds like pitchy as fuck, but I'm going to have my own songwriting checklist PDF free for everybody to kind of do your own thing, and it'll help you maybe compartmentalize the songwriting process a little bit better if you're struggling, or maybe just make you think about it in a different way if you are really good at songwriting. I don't know. It's just how I like to write songs. If you write songs in a weird way, or like you start with, a lyric first, or you start with a melody or a chord progression first. It doesn't matter how you start. It's more so like if you have all these elements. For me, songwriting is like cleaning up a big mess. I just make a big mess and record it and pick the best parts of my mess. And then I clean everything up. I'm like, this goes here, this goes there. Throw that away into the trash. Throw the trash bag out. Send it to the dump. When I was in the Betty Carter program, one of my friends was literally like, a lot of this like songwriting stuff is just about like Riz and like who has the best game. And I thought that was so funny, and I had never heard anybody say anything like that. It was just kind of like, who has the best flirting game? Like, who has the best finesse, essentially. And I really never thought of it that way. It kind of like blew my mind. I was like, oh, wait, yeah. That's kind of it. I guess there's a couple angles that we could take. Like, is your song more personal? Is it more universal? Maybe you're telling a whole story or a whole arc of like a situation. And then I feel like there's like an overall like good vibe, like I love you. And it's like, not like that really, but like a vibe, Like it doesn't have to be about a person, I guess, a love song. So it could be about like your pet bird or something, potentially. Or like a cup of coffee. Ooh, I love you, baby, and if it's quite right. In terms of like lyric writing tips, I think avoiding cliches or making cliches like witty is like a cool thing. And writing from like your real emotions. Describe like moments that show your emotions as well. And you can use like the 5 senses. And I try to do that. I don't always use the 5 senses all the time. Sometimes it's just a couple of them naturally and I don't even realize. But I don't actively like seek those out. Use it tastefully. No pun intended. Strong imagery, metaphors, things like that. In Green-Eyed, Blue-Eyed Boy, the first line is walking in the sunshine, holding your hand, kiss on the forehead, kiss it again. And I think that that's kind of like, you can see that, right? Like that's imagery right there. You can literally see that. Whether it's on the beach, you're starting to imagine like, oh, this couple holding hands and he's like, mwah, forehead kiss. Oop. Another one. Who doesn't love a little double take? You know what I'm saying? Keep holding on, dear. Don't let me go, because I got something you want to know. That's the next couple phrases. I think that really sets up the like pre-chorus, which is even more imagery, but more so like metaphors. So using figurative language is a huge thing for me. I love similes and metaphors. And growing up, actually, I had this 8th grade teacher who was literally the scariest woman I have ever met, but I absolutely loved her. She was like a general, like a sergeant. She was the only English teacher that like made me work. As an 8th grader, I was just like, wait, so we're not going to have snack time? Like, we're just going to weed? What is this? Like, and she was the first teacher to teach me figurative language. We had a whole poetry segment. I could tell you could relate this all to music. I fell in love with figurative language in that moment, and poetry as well. And just in general, like symbolism. I absolutely love symbolism. It's like my favorite thing. I am a huge Coraline fan. The movie, first of all, I love Tim Burton, but Coraline, the movie, is actually like riddled with just symbolism everywhere. So if you haven't looked up any Coraline conspiracy theories, you definitely should. It's freaking amazing. It's sick. But yeah, also finding inspiration from like movies or shows. Maybe there's like a scene in a show reminds you of yourself. I think it's a really powerful thing when other media makes you feel more like yourself. Sometimes that's the goal. It's like for people to feel comfortable in their own skin. That's what I want to do, is like be not just relatable, but like make people feel more like themselves. Anyways, use that figurative language, buddy. Similes, metaphors, automatopoeia, symbolism, hyperbole, yeah. Whatever else there is. There's like a million things. I always start with a concept, and you'll see this on the checklist, is I am a concept girly, something I feel attached to. Even if it's just a title that I like the title and I'm gravitating towards that and like want to build off of that and build a world around that, that's what I do. Because I find that that's the easiest way for my thoughts to start. The first thing I like to do is brainstorm, come up with a concept. I draw a diagram every time I want to really brainstorm. I draw a circle. Looks like that. If you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify, I'm sorry, but I'm drawing a circle. And then I'm drawing like a sun, essentially. I'm drawing like little lines out of the circle, but not in the circle. And then what I like to do is I put the concept in the center. And then on each line, I'm putting words, phrases, metaphors, things I want to include, the way I want it to feel, the things I want people to see, whether it's like things that just flow really well. And sometimes I like to put multiple lines that rhyme together, because then I could come back and see that, and like maybe that'll work with one thing, and then I'll add another thing and be like, oh, that goes with this. And then I'm kind of like putting a puzzle piece together, and I'm like fixing a mess. So after I do this diagram situation, I'll just start immediately singing. Usually with a concept, I'll kind of hear how I want that concept to be included. Sometimes I'll come up with a pre-chorus first. Sometimes I'll come up with the verses first. Sometimes I'll come up with the hook right away. The really hard part is hearing what those things are. So if I sing something that sounds like a verse, knowing that sounds like a verse. If I sing something that sounds like a pre-chorus, and then saying, oh, that sounds like a pre-chorus. And like certain different forms, that's also in the checklist. When you get sort of these things, these concepts together, what do you want the form to sound like? Is how you want to tell your story, essentially. So you got your little concept book situation. I always write in the same book. It's fun because then I get to see the progression of all my songs. And then after I kind of come up with some melodic ideas, I'm recording all the time. If I am brainstorming, I am recording every little thing, because you never know when something's going to come out and you're going to be like, oh, what was that? And then you're going to forget it. Step number 4 is like form and groove, but you're kind of mixing that with 3 and 5. So if you're looking at the checklist, which you should, because this would make a lot more sense, you're sort of using the form in both of these steps because, you know, they're all informing each other. In my song, Green-Eyed, Blue-Eyed Boy, I actually wrote the chorus first, which goes, green-eyed, blue-eyed boy, yes, you're my green-eyed, blue-eyed boy. Right? So that's, and when I first wrote it, it actually was like, because he has greenish eyes, and I always call them blue. I'm always like, they're slightly blue, like they're bluish. My eyes are blue. So they're like greenish blue. And like a lot of people have like greenish bluish eyes, and I thought that would be kind of relatable because a lot of people are like, oh, I have greenish bluish, like some people say green, some people say blue. And so then I actually originally wrote, you say green-eyed, I say blue-eyed. That was just this concept that I had. And I remember thinking like, that's a lot of words to fit into that. way too many words. Boy, yes, you're my green eye. So I chopped it in half essentially. And knowing, and like that was another thing that I learned in the Betty Carter program was like spacing and like making things sound like how you would kind of speak it. Because no one would ever say, you say green eyed, I say blue. Like they wouldn't rush that. They would say, you say green eyed, pause a little bit. I say blue eyed. And that didn't fit naturally into what I was writing. So I had changed it. And then I actually liked this other thing better. Then after you're kind of like figuring out what works, what doesn't, you're recording everything. In terms of chords and like picking chords and coming up with chords, I try to find the chords of the original melodies that I come up with. Like if I come up with like a sick hook and I'm just singing it to myself and I'm recording it, I will go and find the chords for that. I like to lead with the melody first. I do love chords and coming up with crazy chord situations, but a lot of things can work with one melody. So for me, I like to try a lot of possibilities for a melody and then change it up and see what works, what doesn't, what makes me feel the most authentic for that feeling that I'm going for. In step 5, you're kind of like coming up with chords and you're refining your melody choices because you're picking chords that are going to reflect the melody. And so you might change the melody a little bit because of the chords that you picked. Number 6 is really organizing your sections. And how many times am I going to repeat the verse? Okay, this is definitely the chorus. How many times do I want to repeat the chorus? Should I add a bridge? I think I'm going to add a bridge. What should the bridge sound like? And then final thing is like arranging. What kind of intro do I want? What kind of outro do I want? And then sort of creating like a demo. And I know it sounds like I kind of rushed through that whole section, but that is, for me, sometimes the easier parts. Like once I have like all the sections kind of figured out, I'm just organizing them. It really is just like, and then once I create a little demo, I'll listen to that nonstop and then I'll go back and re-record it again because now I have some different information and different ideas in mind after I've listened to it a bunch of times. I just want to encourage everybody here. I mean, Valentine's Day is obviously the day that I'm putting this out, but I encourage you to write your own love songs. We just need more songs in general. So I encourage you to download my songwriting checklist PDF and you can apply it to like any kind of song, not just a love song. Share your songs if you do write any with the help of this video. Most of all, happy Valentine's Day. Next episode, I'm actually going to be talking about some vocal health tips. So if there's any singers, hopefully it'll be somewhat helpful to you guys. Sign up for our newsletter for some more information of things coming up. Not just podcast stuff, but just things in general. Like, subscribe, rate. All right, peace out, dog. Bye.